Prologue, whispers in the snow. The wind howled like a mourning widow across the frozen expanse. Somewhere beyond the reach of firelight and memory, an ancient forest stirred, its tall frost-bitten trees whispering secrets to the moon. Beneath their branches, where the snow lay untouched and silence reigned like a god, something moved. Not beast, not man, something forgotten, yet waiting. Villagers in the valley below dared not speak of the old legends, not near fire, not near children, not even in prayer. It was forbidden, because names held power, and some names, once spoken, could awaken things best left buried in ice. They called them creatures of the snow, once. Now, they didn't call them anything at all, but the mountain remembered, the wind remembered, and soon someone would remember too, because destiny walks in circles. And winter always comes home. Welcome back to my channel. This is an audiobook for the cursed Alpha's chosen mate. A tale of love, broken laws, dynasties, and werewolf shifters, set in a world where light and darkness collide. Written and narrated by Cauliflower Campbell. If you're new here, my channel creates stories for adults and teenagers, with lessons and experiences to learn from. We post mainly on Saturdays. Our videos are in different genres, and also in different forms. There are full-length audiobooks and short-chaptered audiobooks. Go to my channel page, subscribe, and check out the playlists for more fantasy, romance, thriller, mystery, suspense, and adventure. Prepare yourself for a breathtaking adventure filled with werewolves, forbidden magic, and a love that defies destiny. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Become a member of my channel for exclusive stories and second parts of books. Let the story continue. Chapter 1, Whispers of the Forbidden. In the secluded village of Alkia, surrounded by towering frostbitten pines between jagged mountains, silence was more than a virtue, it was survival. Here, words held power, and some were never to be spoken aloud. Among them was the name of the old race, the werewolf shifters, or, as the elders called them in hushed warnings, creatures of the snow. They were the kind of tales children were told to keep them close to the fire. Not bedtime stories, but solemn warnings passed down in cold, hushed tones. Once, long ago, the creatures were beautiful, magical, and revered. They lived in the high mountain reaches, shifting between human and beast with the grace of snowfall. But that was before the curse, before the rage, before the blood. It was said the werewolves hated humans now, cursed by betrayal and bound to ice, driven by savagery and sorrow. According to village law, to even speak of them, to so much as whisper their name beyond the veil of night, was to invite death. Cassandra had always felt the weight of that silence more than most. She had the look of snow itself, long, wavy silver hair that shimmered even under clouded skies, and eyes as blue as glacier crystals. Many whispered that she was cursed. Others said she was a gift, but none dared say it too loudly. In a village that feared difference, Cassandra stood out like moonlight in a storm. Orphaned as an infant, Cassandra had been raised by Freya, Alkia's master healer. Freya was stern and wise, with her chestnut brown hair neatly tied in a bun, and a sharp tongue and gentler heart, took in orphans the way most collected herbs. But Cassandra was different. The girl had a knowing silence in her, and a way of listening to the wind as if it were trying to speak just to her. She grew up alongside two younger children, Rita, a fiery, kind girl with wild auburn curls, and Kasha, a cute, quiet, and sweet girl with short, dark raven hair, who rarely let go of Cassandra's hand. The three were as close as sisters, and Freya's cottage, nestled on the edge of the woods, had always felt like home, warm, alive, and smelling of pine, sage, and healing salves. But the wind had changed. One morning, as frost covered the earth like silver lace and the first light bled through snow-laden trees, Kasha fell ill. Her skin grew pale, her breath shallow, and her body burned with a fever that no ordinary herb could quell. Freya had tried everything. By dusk, her weathered hands trembled as she ground the last of the pine blossom root. "There is one herb left," she said, voice low, "the gilly night flower. It grows in the warm alcove beyond the dead glade, but it's dangerous. The path is marked. You must use and follow the red thread." Cassandra nodded. She had gone there before to fetch rare ingredients for Freya, always quick and quiet, never straying. But the idea of venturing out now, with Kasha's life slipping like sand through her fingers, filled her with a dread she couldn't explain. She packed her satchel with supplies, emergency herbs, thick gloves, a lantern, and the crimson thread that Freya had wound for her in case she strays. Tie it around the trees. Never let it break or cut. If it does, follow it back immediately. And no matter what you hear, don't look behind you. Those were the last words Freya said as Cassandra disappeared into the forest. The woods were alive with silence. Each crunch of her boots in the snow echoed louder than it should. She tied the thread to the trees, one by one, marking her path like breadcrumbs in a frozen labyrinth. Deeper and deeper she went, until the cold began to shift, growing warmer strangely so. The air smelled of moss and something sweet, and there, nestled between two massive stone pillars veiled in ice, bloomed the gilly night flowers, blue, luminescent, and fragile. She reached down, careful to pluck them gently, placing them in the cloth wrap and into her satchel. Then she turned. The thread was gone. Panic coiled in her chest. She spun in circles, searching for the flash of red between the trees, but found only white. The wind picked up. Snow flurried into her eyes. Her breaths came faster. "Calm," she whispered. "Stay calm." But the forest no longer felt empty. The crunch of snow behind her was not hers. She ran. The storm came fast, like a beast set loose. Wind howled, trees groaned, and the snow thickened to a white wall. Cassandra staggered up a slope, her vision fading. And then, the ground gave way beneath her. She fell. Avalanche. The world roared. Then, nothing. Cassandra awoke with a start, her breath hitching in her throat. The memories of the avalanche, the storm, and the freezing dark clawed at her mind. But when she opened her eyes fully, she was not buried beneath snow. She was in a cave, dimly lit by a flickering fire that danced against the frozen stone walls. The air was warm and thick with the scent of pine smoke and earth. And there it was, the white-furred beast, massive, regal, and terrifying. He lay a few feet away, head resting between his paws, his chest rising and falling in rhythmic calm. His thick fur glimmered like starlight. Blue eyes, too blue, too bright, were half-lidded in what looked like rest, but she could feel it. He was watching her, a creature of the snow. She froze. She didn't scream. She couldn't, because somehow she didn't feel afraid. Chapter 2, The Beast and the Fire. Everything in her screamed to run, to move, to vanish. But the cave felt sealed by the silent weight of the creature. It wasn't just fear that froze her. It was confusion. He could have killed her in her sleep, but he hadn't. He had built a fire, and he had brought her warmth. She slowly sat up, eyes never leaving the creature. It didn't move. Then she saw something behind him. Near the cave wall, a pile of meat, freshly hunted and skinned. His hunt. For her? Her stomach twisted in hunger and confusion. She shifted, reaching for her satchel to check the gilly night flowers. They were safe. Thank the stars. But the moment she turned her body, a sharp crack echoed underfoot, a twig. The beast stirred, then rose. The full scale of him was breathtaking. He was taller than any man, his body thick with layers of fur, muscle, and old scars. His eyes locked onto hers. She bolted. Snow crunched behind her. The world became a blur of white and shadow as she sprinted out of the cave into the forest beyond. But the cold slammed into her like a wall. Her legs burned, her breath turned to frost, and behind her the beast followed, not with snarls, but with long, bounding strides that easily outpaced her. He leapt in front of her, blocking her path. She slid, gasping, and fell onto her back in the snow. He loomed over her, tail lashing, breath steaming. But he didn't hurt her. Instead, he nudged her gently with his snout, urging her back to the cave, back to warmth. Trembling, tears stinging her eyes, Cassandra obeyed. She didn't understand what he wanted, but something deeper than instinct told her he wasn't trying to kill her. He was trying to protect her. Back inside, he dragged the meat closer to the fire. Then, to her utter disbelief, he sat and waited. Realizing he wouldn't let her starve, she pulled a flint from her satchel and built the fire higher. She cooked the meat carefully, the scent filling the cave. When she offered him a piece, he turned his head. He had no interest in it. It was for her. Later, he led her to a chamber deeper in the cave. There, in an almost dreamlike hollow of glowing stones and moss, a natural hot spring bubbled gently in the center. He waited by the entrance, letting her bathe, letting her feel clean, human. She stepped into the spring, heat enveloping her cold limbs. Tears came freely now. It was too much, too strange, too kind. That night, as she lay curled in the cave, she watched him sit at the mouth of the cavern, watching the snow, guarding. He hadn't spoken, not once. But the gentleness in his actions told her something even words never could. She whispered, "Storm." His ears flicked. She smiled faintly. "I'll call you Storm." The name fit, fierce, silent, untamable, yet gentle. The wind outside howled like wolves mourning something ancient. But within the cave, Cassandra felt safer than she had ever felt in her life. The creature didn't move. But as she drifted to sleep, she could feel it. He was listening. Chapter 3. The Path of Quiet Footsteps. Cassandra sat near the crackling fire, the scent of pine wood and smoke drifting lazily through the cave. Her eyes kept darting toward the pouch of gilly night flowers tucked safely inside her leather satchel. Every time she looked at it, Kasha's face flashed in her mind, pale, fevered, slipping further from life. And each time she thought of her, the weight on her chest grew heavier. Storm was resting a few feet away, his enormous body coiled beside the fire, his head on his paws. His blue eyes remained half-lidded, always watching her, protective, possessive, but also immovable. Whenever she tried to leave the cave, even just to explore the surrounding forest, Storm blocked her path. At first it felt like imprisonment, but Cassandra had begun to understand something more complex. He wasn't keeping her in. He was keeping something else out. Still, she had to go. Kasha didn't have much time. Back in the village, the mood was no better. Freya paced outside her cottage with a deep frown lining her face. The snow crunched beneath her boots as she scanned the tree line, again and again. "She's never been gone this long," Freya muttered to herself, wrapping her fur cloak tighter around her shoulders. Rita and sick Kasha watched her with wide, silent eyes. Eventually, Freya made the decision. She gathered the elders. That evening, torches lit the edge of Alkia as men and women took to horses and sleds, calling Cassandra's name into the darkness. But none would dare cross the glade. Not where the creatures of the snow were rumored to walk. Meanwhile, the days had bled together in the cave. Storm never spoke. But Cassandra had started talking to him anyway. She'd tell him stories of the village, of Freya and the girls, of the sky at springtime when the frost melted into rivers. He would watch her, sometimes cocking his head in curiosity, sometimes resting with his eyes closed as if listening to the wind through her voice. They had fallen into a strange rhythm, a quiet companionship of glances, firelight, and silent understanding. Until the day he didn't return. Cassandra had waited for hours, pacing the edge of the cave, glancing outside nervously. Finally, just as the sun bled gold over the distant hills, he limped in, his fur streaked with blood, his side torn open by long, savage gashes. "Storm!" she gasped, rushing to his side. He collapsed with a pained grunt, eyes barely open. Panic rose in her throat. but she forced herself to breathe. Her healer's training kicked in. She unpacked her supply kit, mixing crushed herbs and melting snow to clean the wounds. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from something else. A bone-deep connection she couldn't yet name. He growled as she stitched the torn flesh with trembling hands, but he didn't bite. Instead, he let her work. Trusted her. When it was done, she lay beside him, resting her hand on his massive paw. "You shouldn't have gone alone," she whispered. He made a low, rumbling sound in reply, not quite a growl, not quite a sigh. Later, when he finally drifted into deep, exhausted sleep, Cassandra was packing back her satchel. The flowers. She had almost forgotten. Kasia. The urgency returned like a cold slap. She couldn't wait another day. Moving with quiet resolve, she bundled her supplies, finished packing her satchel carefully, and slipped on her boots. She pressed a silent kiss to Storm's forehead. Then she stepped into the blizzard. The forest was darker than before, more alive. Every shadow seemed to breathe. The snow burned against Cassandra's cheeks as she staggered through the icy terrain, her breath ragged clouds in the air. The snow burned against Cassandra's cheeks as she staggered through the icy terrain, her breath ragged clouds in the air. The forest had turned against her, a maze of white shadows and unfamiliar trees. Every branch looked the same, every snow-laden rock blurred with the next. She had to get back. Kasia's life depended on it. But the red thread was gone. She stumbled forward, glancing left, right, spinning in circles. Her eyes scanned the trees, desperate for that single ribbon of crimson that had always guided her home. Nothing. Cassandra moved fast, crouching low and following the line of distant frost trees, hoping for a glimpse of red thread or familiar terrain. The wilderness stretched endlessly. The snow beneath her boots was no longer soft. It was hard-packed and cruel. The cold pierced her cloak and her bones. She didn't care. She had to make it. Just as hope began to wane, she saw it, a flash of red. Her breath caught the thread. Hope surged in her chest. She ran toward it, only to hear something worse than wind. A snarl. A branch snapped behind her. Snow crunched. She turned slowly. 5 enormous white-furred beasts stalked toward her, low and growling. Not Storm. These were different. Savage, cruel, hungry. They were larger, their fur more ragged, eyes darker, wild and hateful. They moved in a circle, baring teeth and growling as they closed in. Her heart thundered. Instinct screamed, "Run." And she did. She gripped her satchel tighter against her chest. The precious gilly night flowers all she had to hold on to. She sprinted through the snow, lungs aching, leaping over roots and dodging tree limbs. She kept following the thread, weaving through the forest like a ghost. Behind her, the snarls grew louder, the footsteps heavier. The wolves were gaining. She followed the thread, closer, closer. But the beasts were faster. The village gates appeared in the distance, flickering torchlight dancing across wooden beams. So close. Too late. Chapter 4, The Silver Guardian. They surrounded her. The lead wolf lunged, and something slammed into it midair, a blur of silver and fury, Storm. He struck the beast with bone-breaking force, sending it hurtling into a tree. Bark exploded outward, snow falling in sheets, bleeding, furious. The earth trembled as he stood over her, his massive body shielding her from the snarling circle. She had never seen him like this. Not just protective, not just fierce. Divine. The other wolves attacked. He fought like a god. Storm met them head-on, fangs flashed, claws tore through fur and snow. He crushed one beast against the rocks, sent another flying with a bite to the throat. His massive claws slashing through the air, teeth snapping like ice breaking on stone. 2 wolves ganged up on him, biting into his flank. Cassandra screamed. He flung one off with a twist of his body, then pinned another beneath his weight, his jaws closing around its throat. But there were too many. Cassandra cried out, "Storm, please!" He was protecting her with everything he had, but he was bleeding. Then came the pounding of hooves. Freya, the villagers. torches lit the dark like angry stars. She heard Freya call her name, horses galloped through the trees, and arms grabbed her, pulling her up. "We have her! Ride!" Storm howled. Cassandra reached for Storm, but hands held her back. She twisted in the saddle as the wolves circled the weakened beast. He stood his ground, blood matting his fur, one eye swollen shut. They dragged him, bit at him, pulled him back into the shadows. Storm was gone. "No!" Cassandra screamed. "Stop! He saved me! He saved me!" She screamed until her throat tore. But no one listened. It was too late. The gates of Alkia were being closed behind them, the heavy iron doors echoing like a final heartbeat. Cassandra, crumpled in Freya's arms, wept into her cloak. She had returned with a gilly night. Freya worked through the night. Kasha recovered. But Cassandra did not. Her heart was broken. The villagers watched her with suspicion. She had broken the law. She had seen a creature of the snow. Rita and Kasha snuck in and held her as she cried. Freya said nothing. They tried to soothe her. Freya brought tea and blankets, and Rita and Kasha never left her side. The villagers whispered, casting suspicious glances. They had seen the wolf. They had seen her cry for it. Freya was sterner than usual. "You could have died," she said one night, slamming down a bowl of stew in front of her. "I told you not to go far, and you disobeyed." Cassandra didn't argue. She had no strength left for it. Instead, she turned to the fire and whispered, "He saved me. He wasn't like them. He was different. He didn't hurt me. He fed me. He saved me." Freya said nothing for a long while. Then she sat beside her. "Not all curses make monsters, Cassandra. Some make martyrs." Cassandra's eyes filled again. "They took him. He looked at me, like he knew me, like I mattered." Freya stroked her hair. "Perhaps you do. Perhaps he wasn't just saving a girl." But no one else believed her. The elders declared that she was under suspicion for consorting with creatures of snow. Cassandra didn't care. She watched the forest every night, hoping for a sign, a howl, a shadow. But there was only silence, only snow. And in the quiet of her room, Cassandra whispered one word into her pillow: "Storm." The fire crackled, and the wind outside carried her voice into the woods. Chapter 5: The Dream and the Departure. Snow had blanketed Alkia in silence, its heavy white veil muting footsteps, voices, and questions. Within Freya's cottage, the air remained still, heavy with both the scent of herbs and the weight of unspoken truths. Kasha was better. The gilly night flowers had done their work. Her cheeks had color again. Her laughter, soft and full, floated like the tinkle of wind chimes in summer. But Cassandra was not the same. While Kasha danced through the hall and Rita giggled through chores, Cassandra sat by the window, wrapped in a cloak too large for her frame, her eyes fixed on the frost-lined trees in the distance. Storm was out there. She could feel it. The villagers kept their distance, suspicious and tense. Whispers followed her like cold breath in the air. The girl who consorted with a creature of snow, the girl who wept for a monster. That night, the dream returned. It came in a rush of snow and silence. She was floating, weightless, her body glowing like moonlight. Then, she was inside a stone cavern. Chains rattled, cold torchlight danced on wet walls. Storm was there. He was no longer the towering beast she had known. He was shackled, wounded, smaller somehow, a white wolf bound with iron that hummed with ancient magic. Surrounding him were men. Some wore fur and bone, others black cloaks with eyes like death. They laughed. They kicked at him. They fed on his pain like wolves tearing at a carcass. Storm's eyes met hers, not in fury, in sorrow. And then the dream shattered. Cassandra awoke with a cry, clutching her chest, her breath wild. Rita stirred. Kasha sat up, frightened. Freya came in from the next room. "Another nightmare?" she asked, kneeling by her side. Cassandra nodded, voice shaking. It wasn't a dream. It was real. He's caged, somewhere deep in the wild. They're hurting him. "Freya, I have to go back." Freya sighed, brushing silver strands from Cassandra's damp forehead. You know I believe you, but the villagers won't. They think you were bewitched. If they see you heading north again, they might accuse you of worse. He protected me, Cassandra whispered. He didn't deserve this. Freya stood silently, then walked to the fire, stirring the embers. You're not the same girl who left this village, Cassandra, she said quietly. You carry something ancient now, the weight of a bond forged outside the laws of men. There was a long pause. If we do this, Freya said, turning slowly, we do it together. You'll not face the wilds alone. Cassandra blinked. You'll come with me at dawn morning came with quiet farewells. Rita and Kasia stood on the frozen path, bundled in 2 large cloaks and tearful eyes. You can't go without us, Rita cried. You need us. Cassandra knelt before them both. This path is too dangerous. Stay. Look after each other. Be strong for me. Kasia wiped her nose with the back of her sleeve. Will you come back? Cassandra looked toward the woods, toward Storm. I'll try. Freya handed her a walking staff wrapped in red thread, a pouch of herbs, a satchel of dried fruit. No more words, only footsteps. As the village faded behind them, the snowy trees opened like a maw, and the path to Storm's prison began. Chapter 6. Across the tundra, into the unknown. The tundra stretched before them like a frozen sea, rolling hills of white under a pale, ghostly sky. Cassandra's breath misted in the air as she pressed forward beside Freya, the snow crunching beneath their boots in rhythm with their resolve. They had been walking since before sunrise, following faded trails carved by long-lost nomads and beasts. There was no turning back now. Storm was out there, and Cassandra could feel the pull of his pain like a heartbeat thrumming in her chest. Halfway across the tundra, they paused to rest beneath a jagged rock outcrop, sheltering briefly from a biting wind. That's when they heard it. Footsteps, soft, hesitant. Freya spun around, staff raised, eyes narrowed. From behind a snowdrift emerged 2 familiar figures, cloaks pulled tight, cheeks flushed from the cold. Rita? Kasia? Cassandra gasped. The girls stood there, sheepish and smiling. We've been following you since the forest, Kasia said proudly, bouncing on her toes. We didn't want to be left behind again, Rita added. Freya's eyes blazed with fury. Do you 2 have any idea how dangerous this path is? This isn't a game. But we're a family, Kasia said softly, and families don't leave each other behind. Freya's mouth opened, ready to rebuke, but then she stopped. She looked at the girls, then at Cassandra, and the fire in her eyes dimmed to glowing embers. We stay together, Cassandra said, stepping between them. We'll protect each other. Freya gave a stiff nod. But one mistake, and I take us all back. Understood? The girls nodded quickly. They were a family now, strange, scattered, stitched together by fate, and they would face the storm together. That night they set up a small camp between 2 ice-buried stone pillars. Freya made a fire from dried roots and herbs, their aroma masking the scent of beasts. The stars above blinked down through the drifting clouds like watching eyes. Rita and Kasia huddled close, laughing quietly about how snow squeaked under their boots or how Kasia had seen a rabbit the size of a house cat. Cassandra smiled, her gaze often drifting north. Storm was out there. She knew it. The next morning, Freya rose early. Stay here. I'm going to find us food. She didn't wait for protest. With her staff in hand, she vanished into the frost-shadowed trees. Hours passed. The girls played quietly, building shapes in the snow. Cassandra tried to stay calm, but the sun was already dipping past its peak. Freya hadn't returned. Cassandra stood up, her heart pounding. She packed a small satchel with bandages, herbs, and a flask of warm tea. I'll go find her, she said, voice tight. Rita stood too. Then we're coming. No, Cassandra said, firm. Stay by the fire. Don't wander. If I'm not back by nightfall. Don't say that, Kasia whispered. Cassandra softened and kissed them both on the forehead. Keep the fire going. I'll be back. She followed Freya's tracks through the snow deeper into the forest. Ice clung to branches like crystal talons. The silence here was heavy, broken only by the distant cry of a raven. Then she saw something, a staff. Broken, blood on the snow. Her breath caught in her throat. "Freya?" No answer. The trees seemed to close in around her, and the snow began to fall harder. Somewhere ahead, something moved. Cassandra pressed forward, gripping her own staff tight. She had to find Freya, and she had to bring her family home. Chapter 7. The Fire Within. The cold was deeper here. Not just the sting of snow on skin, but a heaviness that wrapped itself around bone and soul. The den had been cruel, dark, and suffocating, a prison carved into the roots of the ancient woods. But Cassandra found her courage, slipped through shadows, and followed the echo of her heartbeat to where Freya was caged. Chains clinked as Freya stirred inside the iron-barred enclosure, slumped but alive. "Cass, where are the girls?" she rasped. "They're safe," Cassandra whispered, crouching low, her fingers working on the rusted latch. Before she could break it open, a guttural growl echoed from behind. A beast, larger than anything they had fought, lurched from the shadows. Its eyes were savage, glowing red. Its breath steamed in the icy air. It lunged. Freya screamed. Cassandra raised her arm to block the attack, but before the beast reached her, two shapes emerged from the dark. Rita, Kasha. Both carrying thick branches, swinging with all their might, they struck the beast's side and legs, buying precious seconds, though it threw them aside like rag dolls. They hit the stone wall with groans of pain. "The door, Cassandra!" Freya shouted. The latch broke. Freya burst from the cage with fury burning in her veins. The four of them descended on the beast, striking, pushing, biting, and clawing with sheer will. Blow after blow until finally the beast fell, groaning, into a heap. They didn't look back. They ran. Night claimed the forest with thick, suffocating shadows. They returned to their dwindling fire and collapsed around it. The girls were bruised and bloody, but alive. Freya's cloak hung in tatters, her braid undone. Cassandra sat with her arms around Rita and Kasha, shielding them from the wind. Then came Freya's voice, sharp and trembling. "You reckless, reckless child." Cassandra flinched. Freya rose to her full height, the fire lighting her face in flickers of gold and fury. "Do you even understand what you walked into? That wasn't just a den, that was Talric's nest, a sanctum of darkness, of beasts who have no memory of what it means to be human. You brought the girls into that? I didn't know they followed me. I told them not to come. But they did, because they trust you, and I trusted you too to keep them safe." The words were knives. Even Rita and Kasha looked away, shame washing over their tired faces. Freya turned her eyes on the girls. "You could have died, all of you." Kasha's lip trembled. "We just wanted to help." Freya exhaled, her fury slowly melting into sorrow. "I know," she said gently, "but Talric's pack, they don't understand mercy." Rita raised her hand, voice quiet. They looked like Storm from Cass's drawings, but darker, wrong. Freya nodded. "Storm and Talric are brothers, sons of the last High Alpha. When the curse shattered Frostfang, half the pack fled to the mountains to seek redemption. They still fight to remember who they were, but Talric's pack? They forgot. They embrace the beast. No love, no conscience. They enjoy the curse." Cassandra felt a cold dread tighten around her heart. Storm lived alone. Because he couldn't choose between light and darkness, he chose solitude. But now he's with Talric, and the longer he stays there, the more of himself he loses. A deep silence fell around the fire. Cassandra bowed her head. "I'm sorry." Freya knelt beside her, hand firm but gentle on her shoulder. "Sorry won't be enough if you don't survive. We have to be smarter now. Stronger." Then Rita whispered, "What do we do now?" Cassandra opened her mouth to answer, but was cut off by a scream. Her own... She staggered back from the fire, clutching her skull. A blinding pain cracked through her like a glacier splitting in half. "Cassandra!" Freya lunged toward her. She fell to her knees. Her skin shimmered with silver light. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Rita and Kasha rushed to her sides. "What's happening?" Kasha cried. Freya's face turned pale. "No. The dreaming." Cassandra collapsed into the snow, her body glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. The air thickened. Snow began to fall faster, swirling in strange, unnatural spirals. The storm was answering her. Freya looked north, toward the mountains. She's slipping into the dreaming, the realm between worlds, where cursed wolves whisper secrets and sleeping souls wander. If she doesn't find her way back, she swallowed, we'll lose her forever. And as the blizzard rose around them, Cassandra's body lay still in the snow, while her spirit traveled deeper into the truth of who she really was. Chapter 8. The Dreaming of Sarah. Snowflakes danced in slow motion as silence blanketed the world. Cassandra's body lay still in the waking realm, wrapped tightly in thick fur blankets, her lips pale, her skin aglow with faint silver light. Freya knelt beside her, hands gently pressed to Cassandra's chest, whispering ancient words of protection. Rita and Kasha hovered nearby, their young faces etched with worry as the fire crackled low beside them. But Cassandra wasn't there. She had slipped into the dreaming. At first there was nothing, then light, then warmth. The air was fragrant with pine and snowmelt. She opened her eyes to summer snow swirling through golden rays. But they weren't her eyes. She was someone else. She was Sarah. She looked down at her hands, slimmer, paler, softer, marked by ceremonial ashclaw rings. Her body moved in elegant rhythms unfamiliar to Cassandra. The skin wore the memory of royalty. Her long chestnut hair flowed over a cloak of deep glacier blue, embroidered with the crest of her lineage. The world around her sang with magic and memory. She stood in the heart of the glacial court, a sacred clearing surrounded by towering pines and ancient stones carved with frostfang runes. To her left stood her father, the mighty Alpha of the Ashclaw pack, tall, stern, regal. His presence anchored the peace summit between the Ashclaw and Frostfang legacies. But Sarah's gaze wasn't on her father. It was drawn to the pair of brothers watching her from across the court. Tulrik and Eric. The first was proud, his jaw square and proud, his icy eyes filled with something darker than admiration. The second, Eric, stood quietly, thoughtfully. His gaze met hers, steady as a mountain stream. There was warmth in his presence, a solemn fire buried beneath snow. Sarah's heart fluttered. Something deep and ancient stirred. For 3 days she remained within Frostfang territory, attending council meetings, walking the snow paths, dining under vaulted ice halls. Talrik was ever at her side, his gifts abundant and overwhelming, midnight roses, crystal necklaces, pelts of slain shadow wolves. But she avoided his touch. Her steps always led her back to Eric. He showed her the forgotten groves, the wild frostberry meadows, the secret passages beneath the cliffs. They spoke of stars and storms, of dreams and duty. She listened to the pain buried in his voice when he spoke of the curse the elders whispered about. One not yet fulfilled, one feared. Under moonlight they shared whispered hopes. Under the frost-crowned ancient tree, they shared a kiss, a sacred kiss, a promise. Talrik saw it. He never spoke, not then. The morning of her departure arrived. Her heart swelled with joy and anticipation. She would speak to her father, plead for union. There would be alliance. There would be love. She dressed with care, the ceremonial cloak wrapped tight, her hands shaking with excitement. Then the tea arrived, simple, fragrant, brought by a silent servant with Talrik's seal. She drank it slowly, then the world tipped. Her limbs trembled, her heart spasmed, she collapsed. The last thing she saw was Eric rushing to her, screaming her name. She died in his arms. In the dreaming, Cassandra saw it all, felt the poison in Sarah's veins, felt Eric's scream echo into the mountain air, felt the hollow emptiness descend upon the Frostfang court. Talric stood by her side, weeping, playing the part of the mourning brother. Eric never accused him. He couldn't. There was no proof. No one could speak. And then Sarah's mother came, the high priestess of Ashclaw. She arrived wrapped in red mourning silk. Her eyes were dark holes of sorrow. Her screams were storms. She saw her daughter laid on snow and ice. No mark, no wound. "Who killed my child?" she screamed. They all knew who was cruel enough to do that, but couldn't speak a word. No answer, just silence. And she knew. "You stole my child," she thundered to the Frostfang elders, "and so you will lose yours." With her blood and snow, she carved a rune upon the sacred stone. With trembling hands, she tore the veil between spirit and beast. "You will never know peace. You will never love. You will never be men again." The curse poured from her mouth like a blizzard, sweeping over the gathered wolves. Their bones cracked, their flesh tore, they shifted, not by will, by wrath. And thus the Frostfang curse was born. Chapter 9. The Twin Souls. Snowflakes fell gently in the waking world. Cassandra's body lay still under the fur blankets, surrounded by Freya, Rita, and Kasha, who tended to her through the days of silence. Her skin shimmered with a faint silver light, a soft heartbeat in a frozen world. But inside her mind, far beyond dreams, she drifted deeper, into memory, into magic, into the heart of the curse. Cassandra screamed as Sarah's final breath left her lungs. She stumbled back through the memory, through the storm, through the veil, back toward her own body. But before the dreaming let her go, it shifted once more. Gone were the echoes of Sarah's life and death. Now, Cassandra found herself wandering an endless white plain. Snow stretched to the horizon in all directions, the sky overhead a swirling canvas of stars and silver winds. The silence was heavy, filled with whispers she couldn't understand, voices of the past, of pain, of love. And then she saw him. A tall man walked barefoot across the ice, his dark hair tousled in the wind, storm-gray eyes gazing into the distance with a sorrow so deep it carved the world around him. Cassandra felt her heart stutter. She stepped forward, breath catching. The man turned. Their eyes met, his lips parted, his breath hitched. "Sarah." Cassandra hesitated. She looked down. A frozen lake lay beneath her feet, a perfect mirror. But the reflection staring back at her wasn't Cassandra's. It was Sarah's. Tears welled in her eyes. "It's you," he whispered. "It's always been you." She stepped closer. Her voice broke as it left her lips. "Eric." The name fit like an old melody. He took another step, the snow shifting beneath his feet. "When you died, I lost everything. I wronged you, Sarah. I couldn't even bring myself to tell your father what Talric did. I was a coward. And when you were gone, I stopped being a man. I let the curse take me." Cassandra reached out and warmth bloomed beneath her fingertips. The snow around them turned gold. "After I died," she said softly, "my soul didn't leave Frostfang. It stayed. It waited. And now I live as Cassandra." He stared at her, eyes wide. She continued, voice gentle. "I wasn't reborn to punish you. I came back to set you free." His hand clasped hers. "You found me again." A soft wind stirred the air. The shadows shifted, and a whisper echoed around them. From the very bones of the curse itself, only when love is remembered can the beast become a man. Suddenly, cracks appeared across the dreamscape. The ice beneath them shattered like glass. The sky twisted. Eric held her tighter. "Don't leave me again." Cassandra smiled through the tears. "I'll come back to you. Always." The dream dissolved. Light, snow, silence. In the waking world, a gasp tore through the air. Cassandra shot upright, her body glowing brightly. The snow around her melted in a perfect ring, steam rising like mist around her. "Cass!" Rita cried out, rushing to her side. Freya fell to her knees. "Thank the stars!" Kasha gripped her hand, eyes wide and brimming with tears. Cassandra blinked slowly, her breathing ragged, her eyes adjusting to the firelight and the pale, snowy glow. "I saw him," she whispered. "I saw Eric. I saw everything. I remember all of it now." Freya gently pulled her into a hug. "You're back, my child. You're safe." Cassandra looked at each of them, love swelling in her chest. Her purpose was clearer now than ever. She hadn't just been reborn to uncover the truth. She had been reborn to rewrite it, and it began with freeing the one she had always loved. Again. Chapter 10. The Wolf Within. Snow crackled beneath them. The sky had begun to lighten at the edges with the faintest hue of dawn, though the forest remained wrapped in shadows and frost. She sat up, trembling, but not from cold, from understanding. "I saw everything," she whispered. "The dreaming showed me. I was her. Sarah, the princess who died at Frostfang. I lived that life." Freya's breath caught in her throat. She dropped beside her, staring. "You remember your past life?" Cassandra nodded, the weight of lifetimes resting on her shoulders. "Storm, Eric, he loved me. We were in love. And Talric, he poisoned me. Out of jealousy." Rita blinked in confusion, still holding Cassandra's wrist as if afraid she might slip away again. "But you're you, right?" Cassandra smiled gently, her eyes glassy with unspilled tears. "I'm both, Cassandra and Sarah, the same soul, a second chance." She stood slowly, unsteady, but with a rising strength humming beneath her skin. And then, the wind changed. The forest fell utterly silent, and the transformation began. It was sudden, like lightning cracking through still air. A pulse burst from her chest, her body arched forward, bones twisted, cracking, reforming. Her cry turned into a howl that was neither of pain nor fear, but something primal, pure, and powerful. Light burst from her skin. Freya leapt back. Rita and Kasha stumbled in awe. Where Cassandra had stood, now rose a majestic creature, a Russell wolf of ancient lineage, silver fur aglow with streaks of moonstone blue. Her eyes glimmered like twin stars. Her paws left trails of frost. Her breath curled like soft clouds. Kasha gawked, her voice small. "She's so pretty," Rita whispered. "She's glowing." Freya placed a trembling hand over her chest. "You're one of them now, but something more. You carry both the curse and the cure." Cassandra's wolf form lowered her head, then looked skyward. She howled, long, loud, and beautiful. It echoed through the forest, across hills, beyond the snowy cliffs. Something stirred in the distance. The wolves of Frostfang had heard her. Later, when she shifted back, wrapped in Freya's spare cloak, she sat by the rekindled fire as dawn rose. The others looked at her like they were seeing her for the first time. Rita grinned. "So, what now? Do we go fight Talric?" Freya shook her head. "Not yet. Now we prepare. You've awakened something in you, Cassandra, but power without focus can destroy as easily as it can save." Cassandra looked north, toward the snowy mountains, where she could feel Storm's presence flickering like a flame in the cold. "We don't have time. Talric still has him." Kasha frowned. "You think Storm will remember you now that you know who you are?" Cassandra didn't hesitate. "He'll remember. And even if he doesn't..." She glanced up, eyes shimmering. "I'll remind him." That evening, as twilight returned and they camped beneath a stone overhang near a frozen lake, Freya gave Cassandra a small leather-wrapped satchel. "These are my old charms," she said softly. "I kept hidden after the elders banished all rights of the old moon. They belong to a daughter I never had, but I have you now, my daughter." Inside were crystal runes, pieces of frozen flower petals, a thread of ice silk, and a pendant carved with a crescent moon. Cassandra clutched them to her chest. "Then I carry more than just my name," she whispered. "I carry your purpose, too." She hugged Freya tightly as tears fell. The sky above them glittered with stars, but it was not a peaceful night. A storm brewed in the east, and somewhere, deep in the shadows, a cursed brother prepared for war. But Cassandra, The reborn princess of 2 lives was no longer afraid. She had remembered who she was. Now she would remind the world. Chapter 11. Into the Ice Den. The wind howled through the mountain pines as Cassandra raced through the frostbitten woods. Her Russell Wolf form swift and graceful, her silver and moonstone coat catching the light of the stars like a streaking comet. She was faster now, stronger, sharpened by the truth of who she was and the bond she carried deep in her soul. Storm was still out there, and she had no more time to waste. She pushed herself, cutting through snowbanks, weaving between ice-crusted trees, following a thread of instinct and buried memory. Sarah's memories, a princess's memories, guided her with eerie clarity. She could see places she had never been, paths that her past self once walked. Her paws barely touched the ground. By dusk, she had reached the northern cliffs. Talric's territory. A bitter cold blanketed the land, thick and unnatural, making the air burn in her lungs. But she kept going, teeth bared, ears alert. The entrance to the underground cavern was buried behind a frozen waterfall, concealed by jagged stone and guarded by 2 hulking wolves with eyes like cracked obsidian. Cassandra shifted behind a snow ridge, breath coming in controlled bursts. Her body shimmered, shrinking back into human form. She crouched low, silent. With a dagger carved from frost iron, Freya's parting gift, she struck. 2 quick takedowns, efficient and bloodless. She slipped into the cave. The air inside was thick with cold and sorrow. Chains clinked. Shadows groaned. She padded forward quietly, deeper into the cavern until she reached the prison chamber. There he was. Storm. Eric. No longer the feral white beast who had once brought her firewood and meat. He was weak now, barely. Shackled to the stone wall, covered in bruises and dried blood. His body trembled from cold and madness. His large head lifted slowly at the sound of her approach. Their eyes met. And in that single moment, something sacred stirred. "Sarah?" he rasped, disbelief cracking his voice. Her heart clenched. She dropped the dagger and ran to him, wrapping her arms around his large, furred, crumbling form. "No, I'm Cassandra," she whispered, brushing his fur. But I remember all of it. You, the grove, the kiss beneath the frost tree." He closed his eyes, tears freezing on his cheeks. "You came back to me. I always will." She shattered the chains with her frost iron blade. They snapped with a hiss of ancient magic. Eric collapsed into her, his weight heavy with pain and relief. For a moment, they simply held each other, their foreheads pressed together, their breaths mingling in the cold cave air. And then she shifted. 2 wolves, one shimmering silver, the other blinding white. They leapt through the tunnels, darting past icy walls, vanishing into the night like whispers of smoke. But not all escapes go unseen. High above, standing on a jagged overlook of frost and stone, Talric watched them go. He had been informed the moment the guards fell. He could have stopped them. But he didn't. He watched as Cassandra and Storm vanished into the forest, his expression unreadable. A flicker of something, grief, rage, or perhaps recognition, twitched in his jaw. "So the girl from the village came," he murmured to himself, "and she broke the chains." He turned, his eyes glowing in the darkness. Let them run. Let them think they are free. Behind him, the wolves of his pack howled into the sky. But Talric simply smiled. "This time," he whispered, "the ending will be mine." Chapter 12. The Calm Before the Storm. The first rays of dawn filtered through the towering frostbark trees, painting silver light across the snowy glade as Freya stood waiting outside the cave they settled in. Beside her, Rita and Kasia peered anxiously into the forest beyond, cloaks pulled tightly against the chill. And then, like a vision from a dream, Cassandra emerged through the mist, flanked by a massive, elegant white wolf whose coat gleamed like fresh snow. Kasia gasped. "Is that him?" Rita squealed, bouncing. "He's even prettier than your drawings, Cass." Freya crossed her arms, her stern mask slipping just a bit. The edges of a smile tugged at her lips. So this is the legendary storm? When he came close, he was surrounded by light, almost ethereal even though he was weakened, scars like stories across skin beneath his fur. He bowed slightly. Eric, actually, Cassandra replied as she shifted into her human form. Rita grinned. We know. Freya walked over to Cassandra and pulled her into a fierce embrace. You did it, she whispered. Cassandra clung to her. No, we did. That night, beneath a frostbark tree with its luminous silver leaves, Cassandra and Eric sat in silence in their wolf forms. Stars shivered overhead, the wind still and reverent. When I saw you again, I didn't dare believe it. After everything I lost, I thought I was beyond redemption. Cassandra touched his fur. You never lost me. In your beast form after being cursed, your soul knew mine. You saved me from that avalanche. You sheltered me, protected me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I forgive you, Eric Frostfang. And I forgive Talric too. Emotion trembled in his eyes. Even after what he did to you as Sarah? Because forgiveness is the only way to peace. As they embraced, a warm breeze rustled the frostbark leaves, and their bodies shimmered with soft light. They shifted seamlessly into their human forms together, their limbs tangled beneath a blanket of stars. He leaned in slowly, gently, and their lips met in a soft kiss that was neither desperate nor hurried. It was a kiss of remembering, of peace. Eric pulled her closer, nuzzling her forehead. I'm whole again, happy he is back to his human form. But far beyond the snowy ridge, darkness stirred. In a cavern lit with blue flames, Talric roared. His body cracked, twisted, fur falling away in patches as the transformation seized him. He screamed as his monstrous form shed, revealing the body of a man beneath. He resisted, which made it more painful, muscular, wild-eyed, burning with hate. His claws faded. His mind, once beast wild, returned. He knew immediately. The curse had broken. Eric is free, he spat, voice trembling with fury. That cowardly wolf. Naked and snarling he paced. If he has returned to man, then the throne is within his reach. He turned, eyes glowing like embers. Track him, now. I want the traitor Eric found. From the shadows, a dozen massive wolves howled. The hunt had begun. Deep in the sacred mountains, the true Frostfang pack stirred. Elders sat around a circle in their massive wolf forms. Messengers ran across frozen bridges and deep corridors of frost crystal. One message echoed, Talric has returned to human form. And with that, they descended. For the first time in decades, the mountain pack moved, their eyes fixed on one goal, to find Eric before Talric did. Back at the snowy homestead cave, laughter bubbled like warm springs. Eric, now fully himself, carved a charm for Cassia, a tiny silver wolf. He helped Rita build a snow shelter, the two girls giggling as they pelted him with snow. Freya watched from the porch, arms crossed, trying not to smile. Stop staring at the poor man like that, she chided playfully. Rita smirked. I want a man just like Eric. Kasha beamed. Maybe even two. Freya rolled her eyes, chuckling. Stars help me. Cassandra stood nearby, twirling a frostbark leaf between her fingers. She looked at Eric training with a wooden staff, his smile aimed at her. She walked to him, breath catching. I don't know how long this peace will last, she murmured. Eric lowered his staff and took her hand. Then let's make every moment count. He kissed her forehead, and somewhere beyond the forest hills, the howls of wolves split the silence. War was coming, but love had returned, and this time it would fight back. Chapter 13, The Storm and the Spear. Eric and Cassandra raced through the ancient forest, two shadows against the pale wash of moonlight. In their wolf forms, they weaved effortlessly between snow-laden branches and over frosted rocks, their paws barely making a sound in the soft powder. Here, in this untouched part of the world, where the wind whispered through icicles and pine, they felt a momentary freedom, a lull in the storm that hung over them. Far from Freya, Rita, and Kasia, far from war, they entered a clearing circled by towering evergreens, their breath rising in soft clouds. Slowly the shimmer of magic traced across their bodies, fur retracting, bones realigning, light weaving through them until they stood once more in their human forms. Naked, unafraid, and hand in hand beneath the stars. For a moment Cassandra whispered, her breath fogging, "It feels like we're just free." Eric turned toward her, brushing a loose strand of silver from her face, his touch lingering. "Because we are, right here, right now." She smiled. "Thank you for waiting for me. I never stopped." The world around them was hushed, just the whisper of wind weaving through pine trees and the soft fall of snowflakes that melted upon their skin. Eric gently gathered Cassandra into his arms and lowered her into the snow, a cocoon of warmth surrounding them despite the chill. His touch was reverent, not rushed, as if every part of her was a fragile memory he never wanted to lose again. His lips found her neck first, brushing over her skin like snow brushing mountain stone. She gasped softly, threading her fingers through his dark tousled hair. "Eric," she whispered, her voice trembling like the wind. He paused, looking into her eyes, stormy gray to moonlit blue, and kissed her deeply, their souls pressed into that single breathless moment. Then he moved with her, not with hunger, but with purpose, a slow, loving rhythm that made the forest hold its breath. They moved together as if the world had been waiting for this one sacred union, bodies meeting in perfect harmony. When the fire inside her could no longer be tamed, Cassandra cried out softly and leaned forward, marking him with a bite edged in eternity. With love and devotion, Eric responded, brushing his lips along her neck before biting gently into her skin, marking her as his mate. Their bond sealed by moonlight and ancient blood. Afterward, wrapped in one another's warmth, they dressed slowly and lay side by side beneath the stars, her head resting on his chest, his fingers brushing strands of her silver hair. He turned to her, smiling softly, and kissed her once more, not with desire this time, but with peace. Their lips were inches apart when the forest erupted. A thunderous crack echoed in the distance, followed by another and another. Trees groaned and splintered, falling one after another like dominoes collapsing into snow. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Eric pulled her behind him, instinct awakening. From the shadows came massive shapes, beasts unlike any she'd seen before. 10, no more. Towering wolves with silver-glinting fur, muscles rippling beneath their pelts, ancient runes scarred into their hides. Their eyes gleamed with intelligence and history. Eric stepped forward. The wolves halted, then, one by one, they knelt. "Your Highness," a deep, rumbling voice said. They were the Frostfang elders. Eric's breath caught. His throat tightened. These were his people. The mountain-dwelling Frostfangs, the ones who remembered who they were, who had waited, through generations of curses and snow, for their prince to rise again. But peace is always fleeting. A sharp whistle split the air. Crack. A spear gleaming with ice and death tore through the clearing and slammed into Cassandra's side. Her scream echoed like a wounded bird. She crumpled. "Eric!" He caught her before she hit the ground, cradling her body as blood spilled into the snow, bright and crimson. Her lips trembled. Her eyes blinked rapidly, clouded. "No, no, no," Eric whispered, frantic. "Please, no, stay with me." She touched his cheek with shaking fingers. "I came back, remember?" Something inside Eric shattered. He stood, placing her gently in the snow, his body trembling. Then he screamed. The air warped, trees bent, wind screamed through the pines. Eric shifted, but this was no ordinary shift. He grew, and grew, 5 times his normal size. His fur glowed blue and silver, his eyes burned like stars trapped in ice. Power rolled off him like a tsunami. The wolves around him bowed lower, not out of obedience, but reverence. He turned to the traitor wolf, the one who threw the spear. One of Talric's. He pounced. The ground cracked beneath him. The wolf barely had time to snarl before Eric's fangs tore through his throat. Blood misted into the sky. Snow turned scarlet. Then the forest parted. Talric appeared. Clad in black armor, face calm as a frozen lake. Behind him, the rest of his savage pack stood growling, hungry for blood. Talric stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "You always were the favorite," he said quietly. Then he shifted, and the world fell apart. His beast form was colossal, black as night. His eyes glowed red. His fur shimmered like obsidian. He roared, and the brothers met in the middle, claw to claw, fang to fang. The forest exploded around them. Snow spiraled into blizzards. Trees toppled and splintered. The land quaked beneath their fury. Wolves scattered, giving them space as the two gods of frost fought like stars colliding. Cassandra, barely conscious, opened her eyes just enough to see them. "Eric," she murmured. But the fight raged on. Talric tore into Eric's shoulder. Eric clawed down Talric's ribs. Each hit shook the earth. Lightning split the sky, and the storm had only just begun. Chapter 14, Death is Only the Beginning. The wind howled like a dirge. Back at the edge of the icy forest, Freya felt the tremor in her chest, the ancient pulse of something sacred shattering. The snow whispered a warning. She turned to the girls. "Hide, now." Rita and Kasia obeyed, their wide eyes brimming with tears, and ducked beneath the cover of a hollowed pine tree. Freya didn't wait. She sprinted into the heart of the forest, her breath coming in clouds, her healer's satchel clutched tightly. The ground quaked beneath her feet. When she broke into the clearing, the world stood still and broken. Two titanic wolves, one streaked with divine silver and deep blue, the other a monstrous black beast with eyes like burning coals, collided in an earth-splitting dance of fury. Trees crashed down around them. The sky split with thunder, and there, half buried in the snow, bleeding, motionless, "Cassandra!" Freya dropped to her knees beside her, sliding to her side. She cradled Cassandra's head in her lap, hands already covered in blood as she tried to stop the bleeding. Her voice cracked. "Stay with me, please, my child. You must stay." Cassandra's breath was shallow. Her glow, once radiant, flickered like the last embers of a dying fire. Above them, the battle raged. Eric's monstrous form was a blur of vengeance. Each strike was thunder, each howl a vow. Through bloodied jaws, in the ancient tongue only shifters remembered, he roared at his brother. "You killed her once. I won't let you kill her again," Talric snarled. "You fool. What are you bickering about?" Eric's fury ignited. "She's Sarah. The soul you murdered came back as this girl, and now you've killed her again." The words struck like a spear. Talric faltered mid-lunge, his massive body twisted, skidding back into a heap of snow. His glowing red eyes flickered with confusion, and then horror. Eric, with the wrath of generations, lunged and slammed him down. The world cracked. Silence fell. Talric shifted back into human form, bruised, bloodied, breathless. He stared at the broken girl lying in the snow. Guilt carved deep lines into his face. He sank to his knees. "Sarah." His voice was that of a boy lost in time. He could not meet her eyes. Eric fell beside her, shifting into his human form, in grief. He took her hand in both of his, brushing frost from her cheeks. Freya wept, unable to stop the shaking. Cassandra's eyes fluttered open one last time. "I forgive you," she whispered, barely a breath, her gaze resting on Talric. He sobbed openly, the truth too heavy to carry. She turned her head to Eric. Her voice trembled. "You've given me memories I'll forever cherish. My storm, my Alpha, I love you." Eric broke then. "No, no, no, it's too soon," he whispered through tears. "Please don't leave me again." She raised a weak arm and pulled him close. Their lips met, fragile, desperate. "You'll never be alone, Eric." Her gaze then fell on Freya, who knelt beside her with red eyes and a heart shattering beneath the weight of helplessness. "She has healed countless strangers, but right now can't heal a child she has raised from birth, her daughter. Thank you, Cassandra said, breath growing fainter, for being the mother I never had. Freya kissed her forehead, the gesture full of heartbreak. Tell Rita, and Kasha, Cassandra whispered. I love them. Her fingers gripped once, then loosened. Death is only the beginning. The light around her dimmed. Her chest fell still. Eric knelt, stone silent. He did not sob. He could not. His grief was beyond sound. Freya, trembling, gently closed Cassandra's icy blue eyes. The snow began to fall again, quietly, like a lullaby. Even the trees seemed to mourn. Above them, clouds parted and a shaft of moonlight bathed Cassandra's body in silver. Her fur cloak fluttered like wings. She was gone, and the world would never be the same. Chapter 15. The Blossom of Snow and Blood. A low hum shook the earth. A wave of light rippled from Cassandra's body, rolling across the snow like a heartbeat returned to a land long frozen. It traveled beyond the clearing, over hills and rivers, under the soil and through the wind, racing across Frostfang territory like a spirit unleashed. When it reached them, the cursed, those beast-born wolves, those once men of the north, they felt it, the pull, the warmth. And then it happened. Wolves dropped to their knees in the snow, confused gasps echoing in the silent woods. One by one they began to shift, not by will but by something greater. Fur gave way to skin, claws to fingers. Their eyes widened as the fog of rage and beast hunger faded. They wept. The curse was broken, but it had demanded a price. Talric stood at the edge of the battlefield, surrounded by blood and shattered pines. Eric's voice still echoed in his mind. She's Sara, the soul you killed, came back as this girl whom you've killed again. He couldn't stay, couldn't answer for it. Without a word, without a farewell, Talric shifted one last time into his black wolf form. He didn't roar, he didn't run. He simply walked into the wilderness, head low, heart heavy. He was never seen again. The snow fell softer now, peaceful. Freya sat in the snow, Cassandra's head resting in her lap, her arms wrapped tightly around the cold, silken-wrapped body. Her fingers trembled as they pushed silver hair behind her ear, now matted with blood and frost. And then, a cry. Two figures burst through the trees, Rita and Kasha, faces wild with fear. They had felt it. Something had shattered in their hearts, and they ran until their lungs burned. They saw her. The moment froze. No, Rita whispered, stumbling forward. Kasha fell to her knees. Cassandra? Freya couldn't speak. The girls clutched her, clung to her, shaking, sobbing so loudly that even the mountain winds grew quiet. She promised she'd come back, Kasha cried. She promised! Freya held them both. She did. She came back, and she gave everything. Behind them, the newly human Frostfang pack watched silently, some with eyes wet, some kneeling in reverence, all understanding they had been saved by a girl who owed them nothing. Eric walked through them, silent as snow. He carried Cassandra's body in his arms, wrapped in pure white silk that shimmered in the light of a new dawn. Her expression was serene, almost as if she were dreaming again. Freya and the girls followed slowly behind. The procession moved down from the forest into the valleys, across frozen streams, until they reached the gates of Alkia. The people had heard what happened. No one stopped them. No one questioned. The iron gates swung open like they had been waiting. Every villager, man, woman, elder, child, lined the path. Not a word spoken. Only bowed heads and hands to hearts. They buried her beneath the old blossom tree, where snow always melted first, where the first petals of spring kissed the world goodbye. They named the tree Cassandra's Blossom, and beneath it they laid her to rest. The tombstone was simple, carved by Eric himself. Cassandra Sara Frostfang, the girl of ice and light, the soul who set us free. Freya knelt by the grave each morning speaking prayers. Rita and Kasha brought her wildflowers. Eric never left the tree. He sat under its branches, carving runes into stone, teaching the village about what she had done. He spoke of love, of redemption, of remembering. Winter slowly softened, and the world, finally, began to thaw. Epilogue, the visitor. Years passed. The snowy lands of Frostfang slowly healed. The curse that once blanketed its people in beastly silence had long been lifted, but its memory remained etched in the mountains and hearts of the villagers. The once feared creatures of the snow now walked as men and women, humbled, grateful, changed. Eric, the last alpha of the Frostfang legacy, led with quiet strength. His rule was just and wise. His heart, however, remained with the one who had broken the curse. He never took another mate. His nights were spent beneath the stars or in solitude beneath the blossom tree, Cassandra's tree, where the snow and petals danced together in eternal bloom. Rita and Kasha grew into women, their spirits fierce and loyal. Kasha became a healer under Freya's tutelage, while Rita trained as a guardian to the new peace. Though time passed, the echo of Cassandra's laughter never left them. They visited the tree often, laying down hand-carved charms, songs written in her memory, or simply sitting in the silence that only sisters can understand. Freya, older now, moved slower, but her heart remained young. She had become a legend among healers, a mother not just to Cassandra, but to a generation touched by love, loss, and magic. One morning, just as the sun pierced the edge of the horizon and painted the snow in gold, a stranger arrived. She wore a regal blue cloak embroidered with frost petals. Her hair was long. Her face was not Cassandra's, but her aura, her presence, stirred something ancient in the air. She walked with grace through the village. Heads turned. No one knew her name. She made her way to the blossom tree, the sacred grave where petals still bloomed in the deepest winters. She knelt. She placed her palm gently against the bark. Her eyes shimmered as though galaxies spun behind them. She read the name carved into the stone, Cassandra Sara Frostfang. She smiled. A whisper of wind tugged at her cloak. Then, from deep within the mountains, where ice met the sky, a single haunting wolf howl echoed across the world. It was not sorrowful. It was a call. A beginning, and somewhere, hidden within the whispering woods and frozen rivers, a silver light flickered. The world remembered her, the frost remembered her, and love, true, eternal, and unbound by time, had never left. The end. If you enjoyed this audiobook, subscribe to my channel for more interesting audiobooks. Join my channel by becoming a member and have early access to stories and second parts of books. Save the playlist for more upcoming audiobooks. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Check out new audiobooks in my channel. Who do you think the strange woman at the end of the story is? Comment your answers in the comment section. Thanks for listening.